aka Ishmael, coming at you again with another video on a new product here I got. These are the KZ Dq6s. The KZ brand was a brand that's been it's a brand that's been around for a little while. They seem to be on the more cheaper side of IEMs, and they're a brand that for a long time I stayed away from, just due to the fact that a lot of forums like HeadFi, Headphones.com, and a few others always said that the quality control wasn't necessarily up to par. And I was also told that, you know, instead of just buying a bunch of little IEMs, you should just make one big purchase. But now that I'm a reviewer, I kind of see a sense in trying these out and kind of seeing what the market is doing. This is a set that has been highly wrecked and a lot of people have liked for the most part. It's a very inexpensive set, and it has 3 dynamic drivers, and they're tuned to handle the bass, the mids, as well as the highs, utilizing a dynamic driver. That's something I'm extremely interested in. Normally, you would think that, you know, there might be some harmonic issues between dynamic drivers causing some cancellation problems, but I'm extremely interested in seeing how they tune these, and we're able to kind of get that right. Let's go ahead and crack this open and see what they look like. For those of you that don't know and haven't checked yet, we're going into a new month, and I have updated my playlist just with some songs that I've been listening to a little bit more frequently than others. And I would, you know, just to keep from being bored, I wanted to switch it out and see what's going on with some of these headphones, utilizing different types of music and finding music that might be a little bit more better for reference, little things like that, just to suit everyone's taste and try to get a wider variety. Now, this is a pretty slick looking design here. Before I opened it up, I was worried about the bulge because of the way it was sitting in there, so it kind of made me feel like they just kind of balled it up, but it looks like it's pretty well slick. So let's open that up. We got the sets, we got the cable. Move the trash over to the side. So these are going to be what they look like there, sitting there in that foam, and they are a 2-pin. I do prefer a 2-pin. 2 pins are a little bit easier to kind of exchange the cables in and out without damaging the bud. See-through silver there. A little bit of KZ branding on it, as you can see. And there we have the dynamic driver in the shells. Pretty cool looking. So far, so good. Looking good. Feels good in the hand. That resin feels really smooth. And I got those 2 comply tips sitting there because I'm definitely probably going to swap out that tip. I don't do well with the stock tips, you know, for whatever reason. They cause ear itch for me, just due to how they rub me from pulling them in and out of my ear canal. Alright, so we got an angled plug, and we have a recessed 2-pin cable. And a recessed 2-pin cable is just the pins are kind of hidden a little bit behind a guard to make sure that the pin doesn't get damaged when you're either pulling it in or taking it out, and it kind of acts as like a rail or a guard to putting them in. So that's pretty cool. Alright, looks pretty good. I don't have too many complaints about the cable so far. Alright, and that will conclude the unboxing portion of this video. We're going to go ahead and give them a listen and see kind of what they do with my new current playlist. If you haven't checked out my playlist, go ahead and give it a go. It might give you a better guidelines as to what it is that I like to listen to and what it is that I'm listening for. so that way you can get an accurate representation of what it is that I'm referring to in my reviews musically and sonically. And again, these are only about 30 bucks on Amazon. I'll go ahead and leave a link down in the description, as well as to my two complex here. I normally go with the 400s. I do have some 500s here, and I'm going to go ahead and give these a test out as well, kind of see how they might help benefit me. These have a little bit more of a sticky tacky feel to it. These I think are a bit different, maybe like a little thicker. I'm going to test these out and see if maybe they might last me longer than the 400s, because the 400s kind of wear down a bit fast for me. But I'll be right back and give you guys a quick sound impressions. All right, now to wrap up this review with a quick sound impressions of my new KZs. These are actually very good sounding despite the triple dynamic driver. I don't get too much feedback coming off of them, and there's not too much interference between the dynamic drivers tuning. Very well made. They feel good in the ear. They're pretty loose fitting so on me, so I'm assuming that somebody who has smaller ears would be able to fit these no problem, even though it's kind of form fitting to the ear canal. So let's get into some music, y'all. Let's discuss some music. So like I said, I did change my initial track list a little bit, and because of the issues with or the issues I thought I might have with the dynamic drivers, I actually am using my high-res player, the iBasso DX300, because it has a blacker background and has a great deal of noise reduction and less interference from different parts than a cell phone would. So I decided to go ahead and use my high-res player, so that way I can get the power and I can get a blacker background to be able to hear more details in case details were to be an issue with this device. As I said, it was not hip-hop sounded astounding. A lot more hip-hop tracks this time in my playlist. Forever and a Day by Freddie Gibbs, Get Up to Come Down by Big Crit, both sounded amazing, as well as Retribution by Pusha T and Mad City by Kendrick Lamar. Retribution has the most bass on it. It has like an artificial type of bass that naturally kind of reverbs throughout the track. So for me, it wasn't an issue if these were to handle those a little bit less likely. If these didn't handle that as well, then I wouldn't have been so mad about it, because that track just seems to be heavy bass oriented, and it seems like when they made that track, it's supposed to kind of reverb throughout the track. Like I said, The Weeknd Heartless sounded great. Now his high vocal pitches, they didn't stand out as much with this set, but that's to be expected with dynamic drivers in general. Whenever you have a dynamic driver, it should be able to take care of all three at the same time without compromising. But sometimes the compromise is the fact that you may lose a tad bit of detail. That's normally the compromise, but everything is present within the track, which is a good thing. With that track, always sounds good, so it wasn't an issue to me. Charles Bradley, Changes. Very powerful vocalist, Charles Bradley is. Let me see here. Oh, see if I can get this to show some album art. Make it look a little pretty. Charles Bradley is an extreme vocalist. He has very good vocals. I implore everybody to take a listen to that track. I think he died recently. I have to look into that. But he did a cover of a song called Changes, and it is absolutely amazing. His voice has natural raspiness to it, very low end, and you know what? His low end voice combined with the smooth jazz type instrumentation that he had placed all throughout the beat just was so complimentary. It's just a beautiful song. I thoroughly enjoy listening to him. Jackson Brown, Late for the Sky. Late for the Sky is a song that I discovered by listening to a Long Beach artist by the name of Evidence. And Evidence used this track, one of the verses in this track, as well as the title of this track, for one of his songs called Late for the Sky on his album Cats and Dogs, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. So that Jackson Brown track is very, very good. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's kind of more of like a popish type of track, but it's old school. It's a very old school track. So that popish sound that you normally would get today, it doesn't translate to then. So it's still more of a acoustic style, soft rock track. Although they do put it in the pop category, I don't think every song on there fits the category of pop. Kaneda. Kaneda is a symphonic type of sound by Yamashiro Gumi, and that's a track that was produced for a movie called Akira, a 1988 movie called Akira. It's a very, very good movie. It's a very classic movie. I'm sure a lot of anime fans have seen it before, or at least you've heard of it. That track is good to me because it has so many different things going on in the track, so many different acoustics. I don't think these headphones did very well executing it though. I think that these kind of had a difficult time keeping up, if that makes any sense. They couldn't really keep up very well with all the different low end tones and high end tones at the exact same time, because it was all playing at different frequencies and the attacks were very sharp, and it couldn't really keep up with that. But it still sounded okay. Something sounded lower in volume because it had a hard time keeping up. And I do have the best quality of that track that you could possibly get in a DSD file, if that means anything to anybody. So it was, and it is being played at the very maximum capacity that I could play it at on the DX300, as well as on the highest file resolution that is currently available for that track. It didn't do it very well for me. There are other sets that I would like to use to listen to that kind of music. Tame Impala, It's Not Meant to Be. Excellent sounding track. Tame Impala was introduced to me maybe about a year and a half ago by a friend of mine's at work. And his music is very psychedelic sounding, very 70s and 80s influenced. And he has just great vocals on there, and he's pretty good at maintaining and writing a song. He can write his ass off when it comes to the lyrics. So that track sounded very good. So the set, ultimately, it sounds good when it comes to slower sounding songs. If I go to a track like the FKJ and Masigo Tadao, that track sounds good on there because it's a slower paced track, and these don't necessarily have to focus on such sharp attacks and sharp percussions and things of that nature. It's just very smooth sounding and very to the point. So these handled it pretty well. So far I'm liking these with my current track list. I'm gonna listen to a lot more music and kind of see where it takes me from there. Initial impressions were good because these fit in my ears so weird. Like I said, I do have kind of big ears. These fit in my ears kind of weird, so I did kind of throw on these tips to kind of offset that a little bit, because it was kind of airy and it was loose and kind of wiggly a little bit, and I didn't really like that. So I went ahead and put these tips on. These are the 500 series isolation tips for Comply. Like I said, I'll go ahead and leave a link for them down in the description. They fit on these pretty well. They slid on really nicely. And so far, this is a great set. I kind of wish the cable had a chin slider on it so I can kind of tighten that up. The cable seems to be pretty good. It's not too super crinkly. It's very lightweight. It doesn't feel rough or bad or nasty like against my skin or anything like that. Sometimes it does do that. And these little memory foam style tips here for the headset, these are pretty good too. It's a little bit small in this area. I kind of wish they would have made it a little bit longer, so for those of us with bigger ears, it'll hoop around our ears a little bit easier. But it's a tight fit for anybody, and it's very universal for everybody to use. So that's gonna go ahead and conclude my opening and my video for the KZs. If anybody's interested, like I said, these are only about 30 bucks on Amazon. I'll have a link down there. Go ahead and feel free to pick these up. They sound very good, and I think they could compete with a lot of other sets out there and have a cool little design. All right, YouTube, thank you very much for watching. We got a lot more stuff coming, a lot more stuff going on here. The audio hobby, it just keeps going. The iBasso DX300, my favorite player. I'll go ahead and get into this player in another video. I did do an initial unboxing of this player when I first got it. I've had it now for a little while, and I'll go ahead and discuss that with you guys as to why I decide to use a player in 2021 rather than always using my phone or always using other sources like my computer. Why do I choose to use a music player? That may be my next video. Thanks guys for hanging out with me. I always enjoy giving you guys my rundown and all my impressions and just going over music, man. And it's all about the music. That's all the gear is, means to get to the music. So let's go ahead and have a discussion either about music or about gear or about these headphones. Whatever it is you guys want to discuss, let's discuss it. Thanks very much for stopping by.